Now that we have been told by a Jew itself and a professor at university in his research to know how exactly, what exactly happened to his ancestor, how they left Israel to go in Europe and later on come back. He was disappointed to find out that his ancestor did not have anything to do with the Israelites of the Bible, except the religion. His ancestors were converted to Judaism in the conference that you have had. I hope you have understood, if you follow my presentation, my previous presentations, that there is a big crisis. After publication of this book and starting doing conference in 2008 and 2009, you could expect a virulent reaction of Christians' leadership. Instead, nothing happened, meaning that they knew the truth, that the current Jews in Israel, they don't share a common ancestor with the Israelites of the Bible. But because the Christian faith foundations rely on the Old Testament, how can we continue believing in Christianism if the foundation is crumbled? Different interpretations, different reactions come from African and Afro descendant. Most of them say we were all Camite. There is nothing like Christianism. It was a copy of the religion of Egypt. And others say we go back to worship our ancestors, or others bury their head in the sand and say, okay, because we are in, let's go. But some of us, myself, can't continue to believe in Christianism if that problem is not solved. If the Israelites did not exist, the way St. Paul was saying, if Jesus Christ did not resurrect from the dead, the Christian faith is empty. I can say that if the Israelites did not exist, then the Christian faith is empty. Thank God, the Christian faith is not empty, because we have a bit of clue from the Old Testament itself, where the 10 tribes went and where the 2 that are from the kingdom of Judah went. We have a bit of idea. We'll not go through all of them, but let's just start with some few books. Let's start with the book of Maccabee, and particularly the second Maccabee from chapter 1 verse 1 up to 12. That book is addressed to the Israelite, to the Jew in Egypt. And it is important already at this point to tell you that when you hear Egypt in the Bible, when you hear Ethiopia in the Bible, it is not exactly what you have today. I invite all of you to go to Google and search for the whole map of Africa to see that those were bigger Egypt, bigger Ethiopia, and particularly Ethiopia than what we have today. And at the same time, I want to point out that there is nothing like Middle East. Middle East were part of Africa, and it was called Northeast Africa. You'll find that on the whole map of Africa up to the year 1800, 18th century. Those maps were there, but it was changed so that it blind ourselves, it blind our intelligence. But now we have discovered it. We will not ignore it again. I invite you to do that search. So, in that context of the book of Maccabee was written to the Jew who flew to Egypt. What was the context? You know, after the second deportations, and now with the empire, the Greek Empire, with Alexander the Great, after his death, It was divided between two of his generals. And then in the 2nd century, that's 175 to 134 before Christ, the king who was ruling on Judea outlawed the Jew religious practice, circumcision, Sabbath observance, and on top of it, he desecrated the temple of Jerusalem by dedicating it to the god of Greek, Zeus. And that is the time now what is called the Jew revolt, the Jewish revolt called Maccabean revolt happened. And I must tell you that it is so unfortunate that that book, the book of Maccabee, which is the first book of the Old Testament, which is recognized in the history, even by non-Christians, that book is not in the Bible of a brother Protestant. Was it just for religious contradiction? Sorry. Was it just for the religious contradictions, or it was with purpose? That book is the first historical book. It means that if you do a research in the history, you will find that definitely Israelite existed. That book is not in the Bible of our brother Protestant. So it indicates to us that the Jews who flee from Judea, they never disappear in the nature. They were in Egypt. I invite you to look for Catholic Bible, Orthodox Bible, and read for yourself so that you can see the truth. So we have a first proof that the Israelites did not disappear in the nature. And nobody knew where they went. They went somewhere. Some of them were in Egypt. And also when we take the book of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 42 to 43, Jeremiah was taken forcefully, him and the scribe Baruch, to Egypt by his fellow Jew when they were running away for the king Nebuchadnezzar. And probably Jeremiah died in Egypt. So all that tell us that the Israelites did not disappear, because when Jeremiah went to Egypt with the other Jew, it was shortly 582 and 580 before Christ, after the first destruction of the temple of Jerusalem. So now let's come to another book, a book that later on, with the science, with genetic, will give us a clue on why Bantu and other people who are related to Bantu with common ancestors are the Israelites of the Bible. Deuteronomy, write it down. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Deuteronomy chapter 28, you have the first part from verse 1 up to 27. It's about a blessing if Israelites obey God, keep to the covenant of God, of their God, the God of Israel, who later on become the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Is a blessing that accompany, and God even begged Israelites to remain faithful to that. And unfortunately, it is the second part from of chapter 28, from verse 28, the curse of disobedience that happened to Israelites because they disobeyed God. And I'm going to read to you some few verses from verse 28 in that Deuteronomy 28. First, verse 68, chapter 28, verse 68, it is said, the Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt, meaning to the land of slavery. On a journey I said you should never make again. God promised Israelites not to go to slavery again, but because of the disobedience, that will happen again. There, in that land of slavery, you will offer yourself for sale to your enemy as male and female slaves. If you look at history, which people was taken to ships to the land of slavery? Were they not African? They don't know about the trade slavery. And then the Arab slavery also on top of it later on. Chapter 28, 48. In hunger and thirst, in nakedness and poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sent against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. Have you not seen in the book or in the movie how black African was put iron yoke on the neck and taken and sold as male and female slaves? You have not seen that? Now, chapter 28, 49. The Lord will bring a nation against you from away, like an eagle swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand. What is it about it? Is it not colonization? Like an eagle swooping, is it not description of aeroplane and people whose language we did not know who were there? Now, Deuteronomy again 28:64. The Lord will scatter you among all nations from one end of the earth to the other. We have that confirmation on the letter of St. Jude in the New Testament. St. Jude addressed his letter to the Israelites scattered in the world. And I keep on talking to you about Bantu and people who share this common ancestor with Bantu. That is it. Now, verse 28 to 30. You will be unsuccessful in everything you do. Day after day, you will be oppressed and robbed with no one to rescue you. This is the situation of most of African countries and to the slave. And now free in American continent. Day after day, you will be oppressed and robbed with no one to rescue you. It's still happening. The foreigner who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. That is verse 43. Are there any ethnic group, different ethnic group than African or black, that this prophecy is about? But you will tell me, but if God is like that, then why should we continue to adore him? We'll come back at the end later and later on to see that there is Deuteronomy 30. Why there is a promise? Because God is faithful to his promise. He chose our ancestor Israelite, and if we come back to him, the curse will disappear and will come back to take our place for the mission God entitled to our ancestor. Keep following and you will see that